Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Talking Balls podcast. I'm your host, IFA, and I apologize because this is a bit out of sync. I'm about 8 days. Been about 8 days since the last episode. Promise as I go forward, I'll try to get the timings more regular. Probably once a week, maybe twice a week, certain times. But yeah, this episode, I'm going to be talking about the World Cup that starts on Thursday. Just a little preview, share my thoughts about different countries, my favorites and everything. So without further ado, let's dig into this. Um, I'll be honest, I was feeling a bit apprehensive talking about this World Cup because I don't think I have felt less hyped for a World Cup since I got into football, circa 2007, 2008. So yeah, this World Cup, I don't know. I've just not been feeling it. I don't know if it's, all the politics with Trump, Infantino, and all of that, whether it's the attempted Americanization of the game, with all these proposed pre-game and halftime shows, which frankly, like, let's just be done with that nonsense a bit. Like, when you come to watch football, you watch 45 minutes plus added time. You get 5 minutes of analysis at halftime. You get 10 minutes of ads, of crappy ads about alcohol and gambling, even though you're told not to gamble, even though you're told to gamble responsibly. And then you finish the game off. Like, I don't want any of this music shows and celebrities and blah, blah. Just give us the football. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Plus, of course, in playing in America, Canada, Mexico, a lot of games are 11 start at 11 p.m., 2 a.m. UK time. Like, yeah, it's gonna be tough. Like, I don't know how many games we are gonna be able to watch, or I am gonna be able to watch, just because the timings are absolutely insane, and there's just no way I can fit that in with my schedule. But I'll be honest. Oh yeah, one more thing, and the heat as well. I think it's predicted that, can't remember. I think said of the 32 venues, at least 24 are gonna experience games played at potentially unsafe levels, so above 28 degrees Celsius centigrade. And to be honest, with all of this, it kind of just takes away from it. Plus the fact it's a 48 team World Cup and we're used to 32 teams, which usually makes things a lot more competitive. But as I've been going through all the countries and doing my research for this episode, I'm not gonna lie, I've started to get a bit more hyped about it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how group stage games get done, because the way it's going to be is the winner and second place from each group automatically go through. So there's 12 groups of four, and then the top eight third place finishers also move through to the round of 32. So it's going to be really fun to see how all these teams cope. Um, I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams that we, anyone who barely watches football could probably predict will get through to the round of 32. But as we know with knockout football, that's where things get really interesting. So yeah, I'm getting a bit more hyped about it now. But I'm gonna kick it off with, like, I'm gonna talk today about four different topics. So the first one is my favorites, the teams the three teams I think have the best chance of winning this World Cup. Um, the three names won't surprise you. I mean, it's the holders, Argentina, France, who have been to the last two World Cup finals, and Spain, who won Euro 2024 and are looking quite strong this year. Um, Second group, or well, rather, second topic, I'm just going to touch lightly on the England team, because I think that in a tier on their own, where it's the three favorites, I think, then England, and then the next tier or next group I'm going to talk about is those that they could be there or thereabouts. You're expecting at least quarterfinal, maybe semi-final runs, and I think the really interesting about these three countries is they have a global superstar. Each of them has a global superstar that really maybe hasn't necessarily had the best year or set the world alight, but if they come out to play this summer, they could take that country to a World Cup victory. And the last one is just teams that I don't have like really dank odds of winning it, but should be really fun to watch, should be interesting just because of the players they have in the squads. So I'm going to start off with the favorites. I mean, Argentina, the holders. First question is, I mean, I'm going to admit it because as a United fan, I've said it for years, I've resisted saying it. I know Messi is the greatest of all time. So he's 38, 39 now. Question is, how do they get the best out of him? Because they're going to have to rest him quite a bit, I think, with the heat and everything going on in this World Cup, and also with the scheduling, because there's now an extra round to play. Games are going to be happening a lot quicker. So how do they rest him? How do they get the best out of him? I think that's going to be the key to Argentina retaining the World Cup. I mean, the squad, looking at names earlier today, they're going to be the usual combative South American football team that we know. It's going to be dark arts coming to play every time. I mean, every time I look at the Argentina squad, pretty much every World Cup since 2014, 2010, I've said the same thing, which is that defense is probably the weakness, but again, since then they've been to one World Cup final and they've won another one. So who knows? Like I'm just it'll be down to like how they perform as a team in the knockout stages. And to be honest, I think they should be able to breeze through their group pretty easily with Algeria, Austria, Jordan. I think if they don't play with their food, so to speak, they could get nine. They could easily go 9 points of nine and just be done with it. Like I don't see any reason why players like Messi, Lautaro Martinez should be playing in the third, whoever the third group game is. Next up, Spain. Spain's Spain's World Cup squad is quite interesting because this is the first time I think ever that there's no players from Real Madrid. I mean, I maybe would have expected Carvajal, but to be honest, Pedro Porro and Mark Pubil are right back. Not bad options. I mean, Porro's been Spurs haven't had a great season, but Porro's still a decent player, and Pubil at Atletico Madrid is going to be another baller. So it's not like they're lacking quality there anyway. And yeah, I mean, Carvajal's been injured most of the year, so it's not, yeah, not the end of the world. Again, the squad is just fully loaded, and like Argentina, I expect them to actually breeze through the group. I mean, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay, who I'll touch on later, but they've got enough quality in that team and enough depth that realistically, they should be another 7, 9 points out of nine. I think the key for them though is Lamine Yamal, Fabian Ruiz, and Nico Williams are all kind of returning from injuries in the past month or so. So it's going to be really interesting to see how quickly those three guys can get up to speed. Because if they're fit and flowing by the time knockout stages roll around, there's no reason why Spain can't win it all. But if they're not, it's going to be a bit of a struggle because especially with Yamal and Nico Williams, they offer the pace and penetration in Spain's attack. And I say that having looked up the squad. I mean, this is a team that if you sit back against them, they could still slice and dice you either which way. But Yamal and Nico just add a different element to the attack. Finally, France, who made the last two World Cup finals. They won it in 2018, and then actually, yeah, they won it in 2018, and then they lost to Argentina on penalties in 2022. Now, again, this is another team that's just absolute. I mean, the thing with France is they realistically could bring in 2 to 3 squads in the World Cup, and all 3 squads would conceivably make it out of group stage. That's how deep they are in terms of talent. I mean, saying that, I think the weakness is at fullback, where I don't think they've got any world class fullback, but they have got good players in those positions. And really, they are unbeatable on their day. So they could win his second World Cup in three versions. Big issue for me though. Oh, well, there's two big issues. The first one is the heat. I was reading an article earlier, and France have the second worst group stage games in terms of heat. I think across the average temperature, expected temperature across all three of their group games is going to be the second highest for any country in the World Cup. And I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot with water breaks and everything, but what it does is the cumulative effect of that in terms of just how they play through games, how the recovery times, as it gets to knockout stages, they may get more and more tired. So squad depth and rotation is going to be incredibly crucial for France. Uh, Also, they've got a really, really troublesome group: Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. Generally, two of those teams could be in my wants to watch. That is how troublesome that group is. Like, they are going to be a really tough group to play. I think realistically, the winner of that group, I mean, unless France just decide every single player decides to turn up, the winner of that group, I think, goes through with 5 or 6 points. I don't see anyone getting 7, 9 points in that group. And then the second big issue for me is what front line do they go with? Because Mbappe, towards the end of the season, he wasn't exactly lighting setting world on fire. He was kind of a rotation option under below Real Madrid, and we've seen Dembele really elevate his game over the last 2 years at PSG. So what do they do? Because thing with Mbappe is he can always create, and especially with France, he always seems to have his best games with them. But defensively, he's not really going to do much. So do you want to go pair him with Marcus Thuram, who provide more of a physical option up top alongside him, or do you want to go with Dembele, who will lead the team if you want to press and kind of play them in a split striker role? And of course, Deschamps is notoriously pragmatic. So what midfield combinations does he show up with? So all questions valid with the France team. All in all, like those three guys, I think are just those three countries are in a tier of their own when it comes to this World Cup. And conceivably, I won't be surprised if either one of them wins it. And in fact, if all three make the semi-finals, it shouldn't surprise anyone. Only reason all three shouldn't, one of them might not make it, is if two of them face each other in an earlier round. Which, as great a game that would be, it would be a bit unfair denying us getting that quality later in the competition. On to England now, who are again in their own tier because they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of talent, a lot of depth. But the question I always have with England, it's almost like the golden generation of England. Is it that they're world class talents, or is it that because the Premier League is the biggest league in the world, they're just really world class names? It's going to be interesting to see how they do. Thomas Tuchel is, I think, a really brilliant coach for this England team, just because his track record in cups is incredibly fantastic. With took PSG to the first Champions League final, they lost 1-0, but it was still an achievement considering PSG side and the history. He won the Champions League with Chelsea. He was brilliant at Dortmund and Mainz before that, and so he does seem to know how to operate in cup conditions, under tournament conditions. Knockout football is his bread and butter. So it'll be really interesting to see. Although about team selections, it's going to be who starts at number 10, because Tuchel's already come out and said Bellingham has competition. We know Morgan Rogers and Eze ended the season on good form, so who starts in there? And then of course the big question: who partners Harry Kane up top? Like, who plays on the right? I'm guessing it's going to be Saka. Who plays on the left? Is it Rashford? Is it Gordon? Do you put Eze there? loads of questions that we're going to have to find out. But to be honest, the group draw I think is pretty solid. Ghana is going to be a tough team, but I don't think England should have any problems beating them at least by at least 2 goals. I think Croatia have always been tough, especially for England. But this Croatia squad, I think, might just be a few years too old to trouble England in the groups. And Panama, no offense, that should be a breeze past, realistically speaking. So yeah, England would be an interesting watch, definitely. And then now on to my next year. So these 3 countries, like I said, these are countries where they're not dark horses. There'll probably be 3 teams you think about after the favorites in England, like I've already mentioned, the teams you expect to at least make the quarterfinals, maybe it's semifinals, potentially win it all, and won't necessarily be that surprising. But the one thing I identified with each of these countries, is the star player who or the biggest name right now maybe hasn't necessarily done it for the country in recent times or for the clubs in recent times. So I'll start off with Germany. I mean, Florian Wirtz, we saw him at Bayer Leverkusen. He set the water line. He was most in demand midfielder last summer, went to Liverpool, and it, it was a really terrible season. Let's be honest. Like he looked out of place so many times. I mean, we know the talents he has. So the key question is, can he find his confidence for this World Cup? Can Julian Nagelsmann and Germany get him back to his flowing best for this World Cup? Um, Also, recent news about the squad bringing in 40-year-old Manuel Neuer into the squad to be the starting keeper seems really odd considering he retired. Two, he's been injury ravaged last 2 seasons. And I've watched him play. Like, yeah, he's made some good saves, but he's also made some poor decisions as a keeper. Really, in recent times, he made quite a few errors that you wouldn't expect from him. Um, and of course, his weird dynamic with Nagelsmann. I mean, they had issues dating back to when Nagelsmann was at Bayern. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. I think could there could be fireworks there, or it could turn out to be a masterstroke decision. We'll find out in 3 weeks, a month or so. I mean, they have good players in the team as well. Problem for me is looking at the squad. It's probably about 4 players I can say have excelled playing outside Germany, outside Bundesliga. So Rudiger, Malik Thiaw, Pascal Gross, and Kai Havertz are the only ones I think can reasonably, conceivably say we've played outside Germany and we've excelled at football. So my question is, does that lack of outside experience hurt the team? Because they're all going to be, a lot of them will be used to, well, I say excel. Wirtz plays outside Germany, but like I said, he hasn't exactly set the world at lights at Liverpool. So is that lack of experience playing in different systems or in different leagues with different playing styles? Is that going to come back to hurt them? And of course, with a team, with a group, again, with a group consisting of Curacao, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador, it could get really tricky. Um, I think Ecuador and Ivory Coast are going to be extremely interesting to watch. Ivory Coast, especially with the young attackers in that team like Amad Diallo, Yan Diomande, Van Gassan, they'll be really interesting to watch. Next country in this category is, I think, one of the most well-known, Portugal, with Cristiano Ronaldo now at 40, dominating headlines as he always does. Big question: do you start him? Because again, he's 40 years old. He probably can't play every game, probably won't play every game, but how do you fit, if you're going to start him, how do you fit the rest of the team around him? Because he's not really going to track back. He's not going to be pressing high. You're basically going to be playing with nine outfield players in the defensive phase of the game. So, how do you get the best out of your country while maximizing Ronaldo's return? Because a lot of times, with especially with Portugal, it seems like it's either you're maximizing Cristiano or you're maximizing the Portugal team itself. And we saw that in in Euros 2016 when they beat France. I mean, Eder scored in extra time. Ronaldo had gone off injured in normal time anyway, and he didn't really impact the game anyhow. The two biggest wins in the last 3, 4 years as a Portugal came with Ronaldo out of the team. So how do you do that? How do you balance the team with him in it? And of course, the other question is the midfield is probably one of the best midfields in world football. I mean, Ruben Neves, João Neves, Vitinha, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes. How do you pick? How do you drop? Not even just how do you pick? How do you drop one or two of those guys, especially in a big game? And they've got tough group draw with DR Congo, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. I think all three of those teams could steal a result against Portugal. They will be extremely solid defensively. They will be hard to beat, hard to break down. So it's going to be interesting to see how one they manage Ronaldo and two how they get out of that group. Like, are they going to finish first, or could they lose? Could one of those other three countries steal a win against them, and potentially we see Portugal finishing in second place and going into the round of 32 with an even tougher draw or on the tougher side of the draw? We'll find out. On to third country here. And Brazil, I don't know, man. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what's happened to the summer boys and Seleção since the early 2000s because something seems off with this team. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Vinicius, I don't know what's happening with him and Brazil. I don't get it. Like at Real Madrid, he is unbeatable. He could be out of this world. Brazil, when he plays for Brazil, kind of shrinks. I don't. It's going to be interesting to see. Like, I guess that's part of the reason why they hired Carlo Ancelotti because he was the one who got the best out of Vinicius Junior at Real Madrid. Um, of course, that doesn't discount the other attacking talent they have. Rafinha, it's not. It's been a bit quiet this season compared to last, but he's still a fantastic player. They got Matias Cunha. Igor Thiago's got a well-deserved call-up. I spoke a lot about him last week. Uh, Hendricks had a great end to the season at Lyon. And the one guy who I'm a bit surprised about, Neymar. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched Neymar play football in years. I don't even know if I don't know how good he is anymore. Injuries. I mean, over the last few years, he's dealt with loads of injuries, off-field nonsense. Was it worth bringing him into this team? Was he worth bringing into the squad? I don't know. We'll have to find out. That's going to be something to watch. And of course, the team is quite light in midfield as well. I mean, they got Bruno Guimaraes, Casemiro, Paqueta, Fabinho, and Edison. I mean, when I say those names, those are good options. But when you think about it, Casemiro, yeah, he ended the season really well at United, but he was also shielded in the system, playing alongside Kobe, playing alongside attackers who drop back and defend as a team. I'm not sure if he's getting that at Brazil. Bruno Guimaraes, fantastic player, world class. Lucas Paqueta, I don't know, kind of tailed off at West Ham's gone to Flamengo. I try to keep like track of how he's playing. Seems all right, I guess. Fabinho playing in Saudi Arabia, like Ederson's a good guy coming to United as well, so I'm happy to see him play. But it just seems like a lot of the midfielders, a lot of the defenders aren't playing at the highest level right now. So how are they going to adapt at the World Cup? Speaking of defenders, the fullback options are genuinely worrying. I mean, Wesley got injured, which is why Ederson's in the squad. Because Wesley, I think, probably could say was a best fullback. Because I watched him and he seemed good at Roma. So Douglas Santos, again, he's playing domestic football in Brazil, so I don't know. I haven't really seen him. Alexandro left is also playing domestically, but he's also what 36 now. And watching him at Juve a couple years back, he was already clearly past it. So it seems like that's a huge weakness in the team. And like I've mentioned already, the attackers, Vinny, Neymar, Rafinha, not exactly known for tracking back like that. So it's going to be really, they're going to be a good watch. And those fullbacks could get really exposed. So coming up in a group with Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. I mean, you expect them to win the group, but who knows? Really, who knows? Because genuinely, Morocco could win that group. I would not be too surprised if Morocco actually won that group and Brazil came second, but we'll find out. Now, this is my favorite section. These guys, the ones to watch. I don't expect any of them to be even in the semi-final of the World Cup. But what I do expect is that their games will be full of goals, full of drama. It will be really interesting to watch each of these teams. I've got 5 countries here. I'm going to start with Uruguay. Like, think of likes of Fede Valverde, Darwin Nunes, like, what's his name? Jimenez from Atletico. They've got a good group as well. Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia. So I expect them to make knockout stages. Playing, but what makes them a really good watch, or what should make them a really good watch? Marcelo Bielsa is the head coach. That's going to be really interesting, especially in the heat. Are they going to play Bielsa's renowned, aggressive, high tempo brand of football? I mean, that would be what this World Cup needs, a team that's just going all out regardless. I mean, saying that they if they do play that high tempo brand of football, I mean, obviously, I don't see them going beyond maybe round of 32, round of 16 if they're lucky, just because the Heat will get to them. But I think they'll still create a lot of good moments. So I'll be looking forward to the games if I can catch them. Another one with interesting names actually is Turkey, and I mean these guys they're interesting because they're youngish, and these are fantastic, extremely talented individuals. Arda Güler, Bryce Yilmaz, Freddie Kadioglu, and Kenan Yildiz. Like, those are all fantastic individual players. I expect them to come up with loads of brilliant moments. Maybe not necessarily win a lot of games, but loads of brilliant moments in the World Cup. I think if we look at like skills highlights or skills compilations after the World Cup, I expect these guys to be in there. That's the kind of those are the kind of players I want to see play football. They are think about almost like Brazil, what you expect from Brazilian players, that individual flair. I expect them to have that. And they've got a group with USA, Paraguay, and Australia. So there's no reason why they couldn't top their group. And, you know, all things being as they are, they could get a favorable draw, potentially make a run to the quarterfinals. Potentially. But it will still be a good watch regardless of what happens with them. Norway, I mean, I see Norway first name anyone's mind should be Erling Haaland, but rightly so because Norway, that team, the defense first off is just yeah. I'm not even. I don't even want to see them try defending. I want them to play a 4-2-4 or even a 3-3-4, like reverse the structure of football. Honestly, because I'm going to rattle off a few midfielders and attackers. Keep in mind, I'm actually leaving names out of this. Martin Odegaard, Frederick Arsenes, Benfica, Erling Haaland, Alexander Solov, Atletico Madrid. Antonio Nusa, Leipzig, Shoulder Up, Benfica. There's still more names in there that I haven't mentioned, like Strand Larson and co. But Frank, that's just going to be chaos. I want to see all those guys just load up at the top. They're all tall. A lot of them are tall, physical players, skilled players. That's a lot of attacking talent. And frankly, in a group with France, Senegal, Iraq, I want to see those games. Those are going to be incredible games because Senegal, France, I expect to be defensively solid. But coming up against this battering ram of an attack, yeah, it's going to be chaos, and I love it. I just want it. I want to see it happen. Speaking of from the same group, Senegal. I really like this team. I really like the squad they've brought to the World Cup. It's a very balanced squad. My only worry is, like I said, in a group with France and Norway, there is a chance. It's going to be hard to predict, but there is a chance they don't make it into the knockout stages, and that's just because whoever finishes second, like I don't know how do I put this. I mean, France, I think, are going to win the group. Like I said already, I don't see them getting anything more than 7 points. I see it being 5, 6, 7 points as the winner. It could be one of those where first place, there could be like 2 points between first place and third place. So it could, and if that's the case, Senegal could make it as a top qualifying third place team. But at the same time, if that happens, they might be on the lower end of things. So they might be like the sixth or seventh, fifth, sixth, seventh best third place qualifying team. And that would mean the knockout stage, they get tough round of the two draw, could get a tough round of the 16 draw. So I really want to see them. I really want to see them go far. I mean, to be honest, I'm saying all this. There's no reason why they couldn't come second and Norway come third, considering they're the more balanced squad anyway. So who knows? They could, and we saw Morocco make the quarterfinals last time round. Senegal could go one further and become the first. Oh no, sorry, did Morocco? No, Morocco became the first African country to make the semifinals last time round. Maybe Senegal could become the first country to make the top three at the World Cup. Fingers crossed. Let's hope. Finally, Ecuador. I mean, when I say Ecuador, the first name that comes to my mind with Ecuador and World Cup is Ena Valencia, just because past two World Cups, this guy just shows up out of nowhere and just balls out of his mind. So, I mean, he's in the squad again, but this time around, they've actually got some more recognizable names, like the spine first off, Hincapie, William Pacho at PSG, Hincapie Arsenal, both coming off Champions League final last week. On the weekend, yeah, last week, Moses Caicedo as well. I mean, that's just an incredibly strong spine to build off of. They're going to be a tough out. Like those guys are always a tough out. They play with their hearts on the sleeve. They don't give up. Um, yeah. So and they've got a somewhat decent draw with Germany, Curacao, and Ivory Coast. So they could finish second place and get us not too a draw. I mean, the draw in round of 32 might not be too bad. They could go forward from there. Who knows? Like they are the kind of team that could make a deep run just based off the defensive solidity of the team and togetherness of the team. So, yeah, that's a World Cup preview from me. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, who do you think is going to win this? Because it's going to be there's so much else to consider. Travel times that I haven't mentioned. Travel times is another one because traveling from Mexico across the US, Canada, it's going to be really incredibly intense. Combining that with the heat as well. There's a lot that could go wrong for a lot of countries. There's a lot that could go right as well. So let me know your thoughts. As always, I've been your host, IFA. Thank you very much for joining me on this podcast. See you next time.